Hello lovely people. July is upon us and it is the month of my birthday, and something that I have noticed that I have a tendency to do is that I save up books that I am particularly excited about for July, and then I sort of take the entire month as like a celebratory birthday reading month, and I try to treat myself to only pieces of utter delight. I thought what I would do is I would just run through all the books that I've sort of been earmarking for this month and just like give you an idea of what books I'm particularly excited about and what I'm going to be reading.
Sophie Vlogs.
I'm going to kick things off with the books that I am currently reading. So the fiction book that I have on the go is on my Kindle, and that is The Tea Master and the Detective by Aliette de Bodard, which is a retelling of Sherlock Holmes that is set in Aliette de Bodard's science fiction universe that she has. I've read one other novella set in this universe before, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying this so far. Our Watson figure in this world is a sentient spaceship that's called the Shadow's Child. They're sort of these sensory ships that they are like born from humans and then implanted into ships, and then they become sort of ships. And very much in keeping with the original Sherlock Holmes, like the Shadow's Child is experiencing PTSD and has a lot of trauma from some experiences during this uprising that happened. One day, our Sherlock Holmes figure, Long Chow, walks into their office and asks them to brew them this special concoction, which is essentially opiates, because Long Chow wants to be able to function in deep space. That is a deep particular kind of space that usually completely messes with humans' perceptions of the world. Long Chow then commissions the Shadow's Child to take them into deep space because they want to find a corpse, because they are hoping to study the effect of deep space upon body degradation. When there, they discover the body of someone who has died in strange circumstances. And where I am currently at is they are beginning to investigate what these circumstances are. This is a very short little novella. I think it's only 70-something pages long, so I'm probably going to finish it after I finish recording this video. But I'm really enjoying it so far. It's an interesting take on the Sherlock Holmes world, and I also do find this sort of overarching science fiction universe that Aliette de Bodard has created very interesting. I probably am not enjoying this one as much as the one that I have already read, whose name I'm currently forgetting, but I will put in the description down below. But this is very much a universe of novellas that I want to continue to explore. The non-fiction book that I currently have on the go is Ring the Hill by Tom Cox, which is some nature writing. I live in Somerset, and the first essay of this that I have currently read is kind of all based around Somerset. He's just moved there. He does a lot of walking. There's a lot of it that's to do with Glastonbury Tor, which is quite close to where I live. But I believe the other chapters / essays in this are looking at other hills around England. He does a lot of walking and a lot of sort of like musing upon things as he walks. But so far, there's like a nice twinkle of humour that's present in this. So, just because it's summer and nature is thriving, I thought a little nature read would be quite a nice way to go. The other book that I have on the go that is probably not going to be covered in my wrap-up because I don't expect to finish it this month is I am buddy reading The Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. I have been reading this with my friend. My review of the first book will pop up in a book chat at some point in the future. I enjoyed the first book. I didn't love it as much as I expected to, given how much everyone else raves about this, but currently I'm only like a couple of chapters in, but I'm enjoying this one a lot more. So yeah, this one won't be covered in the wrap-up because I highly doubt that we'll have got through it together by that time, but I just wanted to mention it because it is on the go. The book I'm planning to dive into after I finish the little novella is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I think that this cover artwork is absolutely stunning. I'm fairly certain this is Curry Huang, because they are one of my favourite cover illustrators. If it's not, it's someone else, but I will double check and I'll put that in the description down below because I just love everything that this cover is. But I'm also highly intrigued by this. Jade at Jade Juniper rated this really highly, and that's what made me want to prioritise reading it, and then I got really excited about it and I kept it till July. But this is sort of a fairy tale retelling, and we follow this girl whose brothers are transformed into Six Crimson Cranes, and then she has to sort of undergo some tasks and stuff to free them. It reminds me a bit in setup of Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier, which is the first of the Seven Waters books, because that's based on an Irish myth that has a similar setup. This is based on, I believe, a Japanese myth. I find it very interesting when mythology from different cultures has sort of like similar concepts at its heart. I will be really interested to see what this execution is like, but I've heard really good things, so I'm very excited. Some other books that just group together based on my mind is these two books are really associated in my brain. So, Matrix by Lauren Groff is sort of a queer telling of the life of Marie de France. If you are a person who is really interested in Marie de France's life, I believe this is not necessarily the book for you, because I think we're taking some liberties and we're also skimming over kind of the things that she wrote, like her lays and stuff like that. So I'm bearing that in mind going in, and I'm kind of just going for like this look at, I believe that she is sort of exiled here and she begins to form this life in the nunnery. I think she might have had a romance with someone, maybe the Queen of France, I don't know. But it's described as a bold vision of female love, devotion and desire from one of the most adventurous writers at work today. So I've been highly intrigued by this one. For some reason, I think it's like this element of sort of women writers in religious institutions. It is linked in my mind to Unknown Language, which is by Hildegard of Bingen and Hugh Lemmey. Hildegard of Bingen was a real woman who existed. I'm not super up on religious institutions. I believe she was head of a nunnery. That might be wrong. But we have all these writings that are like her and her visions and stuff like this. And she's a figure that I find intriguing because she was quite powerful for her time, and I find that interesting. This is kind of a mutant fiction of speculative mysticism, which is already like what a descriptor. So we are mixing Hildegard of Bingen is like a character in this. The visionary healer travels through the unfamiliar landscape following a great cataclysm. She discovers the mythic quantum energy of Viriditas in the natural world around her. Her journey becomes one of return to the sacred truth of her own being. And then there's sort of like another plotline that seems a bit sci-fi-y, and I'm just so intrigued by this one. I really have absolutely no idea what to expect, and that really excites me. So I'm not actually expecting these to be similar in any way. I just think that in my brain they're kind of linked, and therefore I want to read them sort of one after another and just have like a little moment. The other reading moment is like a non-fiction one. I hauled both of these fairly recently in my like historical non-fiction haul, but first up is The Restless Republic, Britain Without a Crown by Anna Keay, which is looking at the period of time that Britain was a republic when Oliver Cromwell and the Puritans were running the business, and it's focusing on a number of different people from this particular time who all come from various different perspectives, some of them quite radical, some of them quite traditional, and it's looking at all of these different figures to sort of paint a portrait of this time period. And I'm really intrigued by that because I feel like my understanding of the Republic is very limited. I feel like when I was taught it in school, it was very much like, and then Oliver Cromwell was in charge, and the Puritans banned Christmas, and then Charles II came back, and everything was fun again. And I would really like to know a lot more about it because I'm particularly interested in some of these like radical thoughts that developed at the time. I read The World Turned Upside Down by a man whose name I keep forgetting, which explored a lot of the like radical thought ideas that came about during that time period. So I'm really excited to sort of flesh out my understanding of that time period. And then, just because I want to follow it up with Mistresses, Sex and Scandal at the Court of Charles II by Linda Porter, which is all about the mistresses of Charles II, and I don't know. I find it funny to go from the Republic to the decadence of Charles II's court, because that's the type of person I am. But I feel like I only know a few of Charles II's mistresses, and again, I kind of only really know the like popular version of them, like Nell Gwyn and that kind of thing. I'm intrigued to get a better understanding of all of them, how influential they were, what sort of people they were, were they able to wield much power, like, I don't know, I'm very intrigued. So I kind of like the idea of going from one to the other and sort of a little chronological history moment. And then there's 3 other books that I've just bookmarked just because I'm intrigued by them. So first up is A Will to Kill by R.V. Raman, which was sort of sold to me as being very like Knives Out, which is a film that I really like. So and I'm really enjoying murder mysteries at the moment, definitely having a bit of like a one of those right now. So this is like aging millionaire Bhaskar Fernandez has invited his relatives to the remote and possibly haunted Greybook Manor, high up in the misty Nilgarith. He knows his guests expect to gain from his death, so he writes 2 conflicting wills. Which one of them comes into force will depend on how he dies. Fernandez also invites Harith Athrea, a seasoned investigator, to watch what unfolds. And they're sort of isolated in these mountains and trying to figure out, like, was he murdered? If he was, how was he? Like, what is these, like, how does that affect these wills? Like, very much this sort of closed room murder mystery in that they are all isolated together. It has to be someone who's there. Like, I'm hoping for something very creepy and delightful. Also, this is like the start of a series, so if I like this is another mystery writer that I can get really into. So I'm really excited for that. I also have The Yield by Tara Jean Winch. She is an Indigenous Australian author, and we're following August, who is called home to Australia for her grandfather's funeral, and it's very much looking at stuff like land rights, because there's like a mining company that wants access to the land to do mining. It's also looking at language preservation and the importance of language to identity and self, which is something that I find so interesting. I think that this is potentially going to be quite a emotional read, but I've been so intrigued by it since I heard about it, and I've sort of been saving it because I really want to immerse myself in it and hopefully just have this read that's really going to make me think about a lot of things, so I'm really ready for that. And then finally, my friend has lent me Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, which has these delightful sprayed edges, which I really, really like. I have read one of his books before, which was Never Let Me Go, and I remember really enjoying it at the time, but I also frankly don't remember a lot about it right now because it was many years ago. But I've heard very mixed things about this one. Some people seem to love it and some people seem to hate it. We follow an artificial friend called Klara as she is in this sort of store. She spends many years wanting to be bought by a human, and then I think one day she is. And I think this is a lot of reflections on humanity and that kind of thing. I am intrigued. My friend said that she spent most of it reading it, not really understanding why she cared, why she should care about what's happening, and then she reached a point and then she suddenly realised that she was absolutely hooked, so I'm kind of hoping to also have that little hook point. But yeah, I'd really like to know your thoughts if you've read any of these. That would be really great. Do you save books for special occasions? I definitely save books for certain points in the year. I have definitely autumnal reading moments. That's why I make an autumn TBR every year. I've recently started doing a lot of Christmas reading moments where I save big chunky books or wintry books, that kind of thing. And I sort of just became aware that I do this with my birthday, and I try and make July just this beautiful, glorious reading month. So I'm really, really excited for all of these books, as I hope you can tell. But yeah, I will report back at the end of the month and let you know how I get on with them. But in the meantime, I hope you're reading some lovely things, and I will see you next time for something different.